We're back here on Southeastern 14 talking SEC football. I'm Chase Robinson. We're going to dive into the Texas A&M Aggies today as Mark Passwaters joins us from AggieYell.com. But before we dive into that, I want to remind you about Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports, MLB, golf, NHL, NBA, all the latest stats, news, and scores available to you and your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head over to their website or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. So a new era out in College Station. I know, Mark, the Mike Elko era officially beginning with the spring game this past weekend. But just as you cover the team, as you are around the program, just what's the vibe around the A&M program right now as the Mike Elko era begins?
Very positive, very different, actually. I think that the players that are there are excited about the way that he's doing things. He seems to have a very regimented plan. He's got things organized. And, they seem to think that, there's a new vibe and a positive direction.
As spring practice, obviously first spring practice for a new coach, you're learning guys, especially in this day and age when you're having to kind of rebuild a roster as well. Your thoughts on the roster that Elko has been able to put together so far, and I know I'm sure portal additions will happen in the coming weeks. But as far as spring practice, a spring game, learning new guys, your thoughts on just this roster for A&M?
Well, one advantage he had is they're not all new guys to him. You got to keep in mind that, he was there until very early in 2022 when he took the Duke job. So, these upperclassmen, they already know Elko, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think that the roster that he's assembled is, I think people don't realize how good it is, especially defensively. He has some very good players on both sides of the ball, but especially defensively. I think that their defensive front will be one of the best in the country. Nick Scorton, who they got from Purdue, that's a nasty man. He can really play. He and Shamar Stewart are going to be the starting defensive ends, and he said that he thinks that duo is as good as any that A&M has had in a long time. And Myles Garrett wasn't a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's saying a whole lot. He and Deshaun Hall were a very good duo, 2016, 2017. So, you're saying a lot there. So he's got those guys. Shamar Turner's going to go inside, and he may be their best defensive player, period. DJ Hicks was the number 3 player in the country last year. So that's a stout front. They have a ton of guys at corner that they're still trying to sort out, but it's a definite improvement already over last year. He loves the safeties. I asked him about the secondary after the spring game, and he raved about it. And they still don't have everybody they're going to have there. They're getting DeRicky Wright, who was very good at Vanderbilt last year. He's transferring in this summer. Linebacker, they went and just got Solomon DeShields from Pitt. He'll probably start next to Torian York, but they have depth there finally. Offensively, got good running backs. Connor Wigman's back. They have depth at quarterback. I think the big question really is, can Adam Cushing put that offensive line together and get it to work as a seamless unit, something that Steve Adazio could not do. And honestly, I think they got to unlearn everything that Adazio tried to teach them, because that was just a disaster. He was terrible. And I think that they're sorting out that. I think they know who their guys are. And they're just to the point now where they're, fine-tuning things, see if they can get a couple more pieces here in the spring portal. And, if you don't like the way he's doing things, then let him escort you out the door.
Yeah, and as far as defense goes, do you think we'll see more of the scheme like we saw when Elko was the defensive coordinator at A&M? Is he bringing a lot of that back, and is that different than what A&M had last year on defense as far as scheme?
Oh, yeah. He's definitely bringing back what he had, and it's going to be different. DJ Durkin, he had a lot of talent, but he did some very strange things that I still can't figure out. He would go with a 4-man front one possession and then go to a 3-man front the next. And as soon as they went to a 3-man front, everybody knew you just run on them. he would split defensive ends out to cover slot receivers. I cannot fathom that to this day. But Elko came in. He immediately made some changes. Bryce Anderson, who played nickel under Durkin, is moved back to free safety. He moved a couple of guys, Jaden Hill, who was at Florida, and Bravion Rogers, who was a freshman last year. They're going to play nickel. Guys that were nickels under Durkin are now safeties. Guys that would have been corners are now nickels. And you have more speed and size. Elko really went out and invested a lot of time and effort in getting new corners. These are big guys over 6 feet who can run. Will Lee from K-State, Des Ricks from Alabama. Donovan Saunders is a guy people probably don't know about because he's Cal Poly, but he can really go. So, yeah, things are changing. The aggression that Elko used will be back. There'll be a lot of rotating, especially in the secondary. But, I think he knows what he wants to do, and Jay Bateman is certainly a guy that's going to fall into line with that.
Offensively, you mentioned Connor Wegman back. Is he the definite starter? Do you think there's going to be some guys that challenge him over fall camp?
Yes and no. He is the starter, and no, he will not be challenged. That's not to say that Jalen Henderson and Marcel Reed aren't good, because they both proved last year that they are. It's just Weigman's at another level from those guys. He's one of the – I don't think people realize just how good he is yet. This is a guy that he can make all the throws. He's very accurate, good reads, gets the ball out quickly. He's still not completely healthy after breaking his ankle last year against Auburn. But when he's at 100%, he can run very effectively. But he's already got command of that offense. And I think that people are going to be surprised just how efficient and effective he is.
As far as pieces around him, what'd you learn this spring about some of the guys who are on the roster that could help Wegman out there at quarterback and the skill positions around him?
Well, I think the first thing is Le'Veon Moss is your starting running back. And, boy, he looked really good this spring. This is a guy who always seemed like he was on the cusp of breaking out under Jimbo, but there was always an injury or something would happen, and the rotation would just stay as it was. They're gonna rotate backs for sure, but he's the starter. And I think Reuben Owens, who was the number one running back in the country last year, he looks a lot better, a lot stronger. One of his problems last year is he just was very hesitant hitting the holes. He didn't show that this spring. He looked a lot more aggressive, and I think that's a plus. At receiver, they've got some guys they're looking for more. They have a good first line with Noah Thomas, who looked great this spring. This is the guy last year who caught 5 touchdowns, but he was never really healthy. You got Moose Muhammad back. Ja'Day Walker, who was a transfer last year and was very good, he's back. They got Cyrus Allen from Louisiana Tech. This is a guy who averaged 19 yards a catch. He can get open. Mike Tees is a guy people don't know about yet. He can really fly. So they've got that first layer of guys, but they only have like 8 or 9 scholarship receivers. And that's one of the reasons that you see A&M is out there chasing after wideouts right now, is they need the depth. They don't want to have 3 freshmen in the starting or in the 2 deep. And, Jabray Barber was a guy that they brought in from Troy who they really thought would be a difference maker. And he broke his foot, and he's probably going to miss. Well, he'll probably into the season. So, they need to get some more receivers. They've got a ton of good tight ends. I really like Trey Flowers, who they got from Fresno State. He looked really good. And they'll get Donovan Green back. This is a freshman All-American 2 years ago who missed all last year with an ACL tear. This guy can really be a difference maker getting the ball down the field. So they have bodies. They've just got to get that line sorted out. And, if they can get 1 or 2 more wideouts, then I think they'll probably have everything they need.
I know you mentioned a couple of positions that they may be targeting guys, including wide receiver in the portal. Any other positions that say, hey, we need some depth, we need more guys, and we're going to spend this spring portal window getting them?
They're still looking for another running back because they did not get one in the 2024 class. And when they started going after a couple of guys here in the last few days, there was some surprise. And I thought, this really shouldn't be as shocking as it seems, because Amari Daniels is a senior. E.J. Smith, who they got in the transfer portal from Stanford, has never stayed healthy. Le'Veon Moss had a big injury last year. And all those guys are upperclassmen, so that only leaves you with Owens. So they definitely need to get another back in there. They want those two receivers if they can get him. They can find a tackle, an offensive tackle. They'd be happy with that. Same with a defensive tackle, just to add some more depth. But I think that's about it. I mean, Elko really did a very good job of reassembling a roster in a hurry, in the fall.
Yeah, for sure. And looking forward to Texas A&M football. Mark Passwaters, you can see their work there, ADVERTISE.com. Mark, really appreciate you taking a few minutes with me, talking some Texas A&M football. We'll do it again soon, but appreciate your time today.
Sure, no problem, Chase.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Southeastern 14. You can also follow us on Twitter at 14 Southeastern. Like this video, share it with your friends. We got you covered with SEC football here on Southeastern 14.